Hello everyone, I've been gaming and streaming on Linux for more than 2 years. But this morning, just before I started to shoot this video, I did a stream Alan Wake 2 on Windows. It was my second experience with the game, but I had this idea after making the full first chapter on Linux to launch the game on Windows and to see if it was still worth it to use Windows. And what you're gonna see next might shock you. Let's get into it. As a disclaimer, I'm gonna tell you that any of the footage you're gonna see, any of the recording I'm gonna share in this video are actually not spoiling the story or anything related to the game I've been playing. I want to be clear with you. I'm gonna put a link in the description below if you want to go deeper and see what type of image quality difference you can see during the full gameplay, but I'm not going to do that here. So you're safe, I'm not spoiling you anything. I hate when people are doing that. Now, as always, let's start with a little bit of context. I own a RTX 4090, and I know most of you guys are gonna be like, man, you are crazy to run an Nvidia card while running Linux. And to those guys, I'm going to tell them that when I bought the card, I knew the direction I was, taking, and I'm not regretting it. There is a lot of reason why you would use an Nvidia card on Linux. And one of them is video editing, the other is related to AI, and I'm not going to go deeper there. I'm not also a big fanboy of Nvidia, even if I might sound like it. I do like my graphic card because it gives me a lot of FPS and it gives me the type of gaming qualities that I'm expecting for the price. What happened last week is that I started to play Alan Wake 2 on Linux. And while the experience was not bad at all, I thought it was a little bit subpar to what I could expect with this type of hardware. So to give you an idea, when you are running this type of card, whether you change the quality of setting from low to high or extreme or ultra or whatever, most of the time it won't impact the FPS by a lot. But what is going to really destroy you is activating the ray tracing. On Linux, I would average around 165 FPS while running Alan Wake 2 with DLSS activated, because yes, on Linux DLSS does work. But if I was activating all the other stack of ray tracing, and by that I mean the base ray tracing, but also the reconstruction ray tracing, which is one of the new features, we'll talk about it after, my FPS will dip to 62, 65 FPS, which is a big divided by almost by 3 in terms of performance. So you're gonna tell me well, Mark, this is what you would expect. So this morning I started the game, but on Windows. And while being exactly at the same spot and, checking my FPS, I noticed that in head-to-head, comparing my result without ray tracing, I will be exactly where I've been for the last 2 years. I will lose around 2 to 5% FPS while running on Linux, which is nothing for me, which is more than acceptable, to be clear. I don't care, it's perfect for me. But I will obtain only this type of result if I don't turn on ray tracing. If I activate the ray tracing, my experience on Windows will be around 120 FPS, which is the double of what I would get on Linux. And dude, that's why I wanted to make this video. I wanted to make this video because what I believe is it's a problem related to Alan Wake 2, because I don't have exactly the same result on Cyberpunk, for example, but it kind of make me chilled. Because obviously what I'm thinking since the beginning I took this direction with this channel is to make Linux more popular. I would like people to discover Linux, to use it, and I'm imagine if someone decided to launch Alan Wake 2 with their RTX 40 whatever, 4070 and whatever, and play the game and notice that there was such a huge difference between Windows and Linux. I'm man, this is, nobody could advise to someone to switch to Linux if you lose like 50% of your FPS. And you have to understand, like most of the users who bought a RTX 4000 series, they want to use those features. And this is what the real subject of this video is. I don't know if you heard about it, but most of those features, they are coming to Linux. And right now, I would say it's not ready at 100%, but we are getting there way faster than you think. So let me explain. When you think about Nvidia and one of their most popular features, there is not a lot. First, you have Nvidia Reflex, which is a tool that helps you like reduce the latency in any type of competitive game, but also like in any type of game really, which is a really important feature when it comes to gaming. I know in the competitive world, it's kind of like a requirement. And you have the second one, which is everything related to DLSS. And they have multiple versions of this DLSS because this feature has been evolving through the years. And what you can see now is that they arrive at a point where DLSS in certain games like Alan Wake 2 is almost like a requirement. So just to be clear, the game I've been playing this morning on Windows is one of the most wonderful games in terms of like visual I've ever seen. And I've never seen that in my life. The way like the reflection of the light interact with everything within the game is just crazy. Like I have to say, kudos to them, this is insane. But now, because it's becoming a requirement, if you want to enjoy those games on Linux, you might be in a tough spot. So let me tell you what will work, and what we can expect from them. So first thing is like Nvidia Reflex, as I was mentioning before, is almost ready. It has been pushed in most of the API related to Proton. So when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about VK, G3G, and also DXVK. Like the feature is there. It's implemented, but I believe we are still in the testing phase. I had the opportunity to try it, but I don't have the tool to verify at 100% that the API is actually working with the driver to deliver the low latency like feature. But if you go in the game, it's available. It's supported by the driver and by the API, which is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. To me, this is a huge step. Like, it's an incredible step. One feature I want to talk about, it's obviously DLSS. So, I don't know if you know, but DLSS is also available on Linux. What is actually funny is that when you think about DLSS, it kind of like was developed through time, right? There is a historical aspect to it. So you have the DLSS 2, like I'm going to skip DLSS 1, and then DLSS 3, and then DLSS 3.5, and whatever, right? And when you look at the way they implemented that on Linux, it's all over the place. Because they do have DLSS 2 implemented in Linux, no problem. And they have also like a part of DLSS 3.5 implanted within Linux, which happened like historically after the DLSS 3, right? You can tell with the number. But they don't have DLSS 3 implemented there. So if I start a game like Alan Wake and I go in the option, I will see that I have access to the re-reconstruction, which is the emblematic DLSS 3.5 feature, but I don't have access to DLSS 3. So they kind of like skip this specific feature there. And you're gonna understand where I'm getting at right now. What I'm thinking is that in the near future, we're gonna have access to those features. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but by looking at everything has been evolved for the last 2 years, I would say the last 6 months, we had like some type of exponential like activity on the Nvidia side. And I think this is a great thing for Linux. And I think this is great for Linux for a simple reason. I do believe that gaming could be a great vector of democratization of Linux in general. Because when you think about Linux right now, there is a lot of places where it excels, and there is a lot of places where it just doesn't do the expected job. But for gaming, I can tell that the progression is exponential. And when I see this type of feature getting implemented, I'm thinking, We are getting there, and we are getting way faster than everybody thinks. So obviously, the main roadblock for gaming right now is the anti-cheat. There is some game that you will never be able to play, at least in the state they are right now, on Linux. I'm thinking about Call of Duty, I'm thinking about maybe Fortnite. Fortnite is a little bit different story, but you got the idea. I'm thinking about PUBG or Valorant, when they have like this kernel anti-cheat, which is just like against like the vision of Linux in general. And I'm not discussing about that. I'm discussing about all the other games that actually work like day one now. And the roadblock, the second roadblock, in my opinion, is Nvidia. But not Nvidia because of their, like strategy and what they have done in the past. I don't even want to go there. Where I want to go is actually Nvidia is a roadblock because most of the users which are gaming right now on Windows, they use Nvidia. And we can't tell those users to switch to Linux if they lose 50% or 60% of their performance while switching operating system. But as I mentioned in the video, you can see that some of those features, they're actually getting unlocked, like little by little. And even if Linux itself is in a big evolution right now with, Wayland and X11, like I don't even want to go there. But like, I see the progression. And I see it as a really positive outcome. So I don't know, guys, if you knew that Nvidia Reflex was getting baked right now. I don't even know if you knew that you could have like RTX reconstruction working on your RTX card because it works for all the Turing card. It's there. Now what we need is DLSS 3, not the 3.5, not the 2, like the DLSS 3 for the frame gen, and we'll be good. Because now all the users from the Nvidia, I would say world, people who actually use Nvidia, they won't have any roadblock outside of the one related to anti-cheat. And this, my friend, is the good news. So I'm just hoping that FrameGen is cooking somewhere and someone is working on it. But I have the feeling that it's gonna go there. It's gonna go. It has to be there, just because of the way like Nvidia kind of like move forward with their release of DLSS. I don't see why it would not be implemented on Linux. Guys, as always, I would love to have like discussion with you guys. Let me know in the comment below what you think about my another like crazy theory. But you get the idea there. Thank you very much for watching. I see you in the next one. And until then, like if you are using an Nvidia card, don't forget to enable Nvidia Reflex. Because it's there and it's supported natively. See you in the next one. Bisous bisous.